So I'm back in the garage today with my 2003 Toyota Tacoma. This time I'm chasing a little bit of a vibration issue at idle. Now, originally I thought it might be something wrong with the engine mounts. Maybe they're starting to go out, but after inspecting the engine mounts, they look okay. So I'm starting to suspect that possibly the throttle body has started to get a little bit gummed up with carbon buildup behind the throttle plate. So we're gonna get in there and remove the throttle body and see what we find. Alright, so I've got the throttle body out of the truck. Let's take a look at this condition of it. Alright, so this is the part that the air from the air filter goes in through. And if you can see that, it doesn't look terrible. But it's the other side where the carbon buildup happens. And if we take a look in there, we can see that there is some buildup occurring back there. It's not terrible. It actually looks like maybe someone's been in here within the past few thousand miles, but there is still some deposits forming, so we're gonna go ahead and clean that up. Let's also go back to the truck and look at the intake plenum itself, see how much carbon buildup might be inside of there too. If we look inside of here with a flashlight, we'll see it actually doesn't look that bad in here. In fact, maybe someone has cleaned this up recently. Now I'm no longer confident that my vibration issue is caused by a dirty throttle body, but all the same, let's still clean this up, put it back in the truck, and see if there's any difference. One thing to watch out for when cleaning a throttle body, especially a electronically operated one like this, you'll see that there are two different sensor type controls going on both sides of this throttle body, is when you're spraying the throttle body cleaner inside of the throttle body itself, you want to stay away from these hinge points with that cleaner on the inside of this throttle body. These hinge points right here, because when that fluid enters there, it could possibly damage these electronic items right here. So sometimes the safest thing is just to wet up a rag and kind of wipe down the inside of the throttle body here. So let's clean this up and see if it has an effect. So I just finished up cleaning the throttle body, and it really wasn't that difficult because it wasn't that bad to begin with. Now, if we look at when we move the throttle plate, we see that there is no longer any gunk in between the walls of the throttle body and the throttle plate, and that is, if anything, the most important thing, because when the throttle body is closed, that small little air gap between the throttle plate and the throttle body itself is what meters the air going into the engine. So if you have a rough running engine at idle, potentially that carbon buildup could be blocking that very fine air passage through there, causing a rough idle. But again, I'm not really sure that was the problem here on my particular truck because it wasn't that bad. So before we get this throttle body fitted back up to the engine, there's one important thing to keep note of, and that is the gasket that goes between the throttle body and the intake plenum itself. Take a look here. We see this. There's a little metal gasket that must be pulled off. This is not reusable. You must buy a brand new gasket from Toyota, and I say from Toyota because I looked around locally at the part houses around my place and none of them stocked it. So again, you need to go to your dealership. It's only about $8 and get one of these new throttle body gaskets. The reason you have to replace it is because it's a stamped metal gasket that has a ridge that only seals once. Once it compresses, it will not seal again. So important to do. If you're going to clean your throttle body, get that gasket as well. Alright, so that is the throttle body cleaned and reinstalled on the engine. So So let's start it up, see if there's any difference. Actually, there is a difference. I'm actually really surprised. It does run smoother, especially when I put it into drive. The engine's under load. It would kind of have this sort of humming sort of vibration, and it's actually gone. I was actually, after I saw the inside of the throttle body and didn't see a huge coating of carbon buildup, I wasn't thinking it would actually make any difference. But surprisingly, even that little amount of buildup makes a noticeable difference. So you might check yours out, clean it out, and who knows, your engine might unlike new again.